Almost 20 years ago, a terrible injustice occurred when the state prosecuted Marvin Haynes. We inflicted harm on Mr. Haynes and his family, and on Harry Shearer, the victim, his family, and the community. We cannot undo the trauma experienced by those impacted by this prosecution, but today we have taken a step towards righting this wrong. This morning, Judge William Cook signed an agreement made by the Hennepin County Attorney's Office and the defense to set aside Mr. Haynes' wrongful conviction. Mr. Haynes walked out of prison this morning a free man. Marvin was just 16 years old when he received a life sentence. Like many Black boys at the time, our criminal legal system too easily wrote him off, failed to protect his rights, and sent him to prison. He was a 16-year-old boy who had little chance to defend himself against a legal system that determined wrongfully that he was guilty of this murder. Mr. Haynes' conviction rested almost exclusively on eyewitness identification. There was no forensic evidence, such as fingerprints or DNA. There was no video connecting him to the crime. The murder weapon was never recovered. That should have made any prosecutor hesitant to bring charges because eyewitness identifications are often unreliable and one of the leading causes of wrongful convictions. Nationally, nearly 28% of exonerations involved eyewitness identification. Mr. Haynes' conviction is now one of them. There were obvious and alarming reasons to believe that the eyewitness identification was wrong in this case. The victim's sister interacted with the shooter, whom she testified that she had seen several times before that day, for several minutes before he pulled out a gun and shot her brother. She gave the police specific details about the killer, and this is critically important. Details that clearly describe someone that could never be mistaken for Marvin Haynes. Mr. Haynes was younger, 50 pounds lighter, significantly shorter, had much longer hair, and a different manner of speech than the man she described to the police. She was shown a lineup, a group of pictures, and she identified one man as being the shooter with 75 to 80% certainty. That man was not Marvin Haynes. Despite this information, the police used coercive and discredited tactics to get witnesses to identify Mr. Haynes, identifications that those witnesses have discredited. The prosecutor used this information to obtain a wrongful conviction. I want to pause here to say that Mr. Shearer's sister did nothing wrong. She tried in good faith to identify the person responsible for her brother's murder. She and her family had a right to expect that law enforcement, including the prosecution, would rely on best practices for scientifically sound eyewitness identification to lessen the chances that she would identify an innocent man. One of the lead detectives in this case even testified 2 weeks ago that he had deep concerns about the lineup procedures used during this investigation. Yet his concerns were brushed aside. The system failed her and her family because the police never found the person responsible for the murder of their loved one. They never had real closure in this case. And the legal system failed this community. We will never know whether Harry Shearer's killer harmed others. The Hennepin County Attorney's Office bears responsibility for taking almost 20 years away from Marvin Haynes and his family. We have deeply devoted professionals in this office who are committed to doing the right thing every day. And doing the right thing sometimes means we must seek to undo the harms of the past and not defend them. And that is what we have tried to do today. It is not easy to admit and correct our wrongs, but it is necessary. I want to thank all of those who worked so hard to achieve this result. The Innocence Project, who represented Mr. Haynes, the Haynes family, who never stopped supporting him and fighting for him, the community, who joined him in that fight, and our staff, both attorneys and non-attorneys, who recognized the importance of righting our wrongs. To Marvin Haynes, you lost the opportunity to graduate from high school, to attend prom, have relationships, attend weddings and funerals, and spend time with your family around the holidays. I am so deeply sorry for that. I commit to correcting other injustices and to making sure we do not participate in making our own. Thank you. I'd like to invite Andrew Marquardt and Andrew.
Thank you, Mary, for those remarks. Really appreciate it. So my name's Andrew Marquardt. I'm an attorney at Great North Innocence Project. And on behalf of Marvin's legal team, I just want to say how thrilled we were to see Marvin walk out of Stillwater as a free man today. That's so good. You know, starting when Marvin was just 16 years old, he spent nearly 20 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. And that's far too many birthdays, far too many Christmases for a man who was innocent. But you know what? This year on his birthday, his 36th birthday was just last week, you get to find out that the Hennepin County Attorney's Office had agreed to vacate his conviction. So how's that for a birthday present? And you know, and this year he's gonna get to spend Christmas with his family, and it's gonna be a very Merry Christmas. You know, when Marvin went to prison, he was just a boy, and if any of you watched his interrogation video, what you see there is a boy who's been thrust against his will into a very grown-up situation. You know, he was physically slight, he was a little immature, but you know, today. When Marvin walked out of Stillwater, he walked out as a man. Yes. And he's a man that I can say I've really come to admire, getting to know him. You know, this is someone who has every right in the world to be bitter, to be angry, but he's not. And he carries himself with this remarkable sense of hope and positivity that is so admirable. And Marvin, I can't wait to see what this next chapter of your life has in store for you. I want to thank Mary Moriarty and the Hennepin County Attorney's Office for agreeing to vacate Marvin's conviction. You know, this act really embodies the principle that the prosecutor is supposed to be a minister of justice and not merely an advocate in our adversarial system. So I want to thank Mary and her office for looking seriously at the evidence in this case, concluding that the right act, the just act, was to concede that this conviction could not stand. And we all recognize that finality is an important value in criminal law, but it can never be the highest value. It can never trump justice. So thank you, Mary, for making justice the highest value. You know, I should note that even before agreeing to vacate the conviction, the county attorney's office agreed to waive certain procedural defenses that it otherwise could have raised, including the statute of limitations. And this is some wonky legal stuff, but I can't overstate how important it is. Because here in Minnesota, it is exceedingly difficult to bring a post-conviction claim if you're more than 2 years out from your conviction. While Minnesota law does allow for some exceptions based on newly discovered evidence, they are extraordinarily hard to invoke in the overwhelming majority of cases. So fortunately, in this case, the county attorney's office saw that Marvin had real claims and recognized that it would be unjust for him to be kept out of court based on procedural technicalities that have nothing to do with the merits of his claims. But as a matter of good public policy, we can't rely on that. You know, we can't just rely on prosecutors just voluntarily do the right thing. So that's why we're advocating for legislation that would make a more workable statute of limitations so that meritorious claims based on newly discovered evidence will not get thrown out on the front end just because that new evidence happens to come up more than 2 years later. So this is House File 2400, Senate File 2597. So, if you want to see more people like Marvin Haynes have a shot at justice, I encourage you to tell your legislators to support this bill in the upcoming legislative session. I got to recognize our amazing team, Anna McGinn, who's up here, Jazz Hampton, Sydney Dobbs for their extraordinary work in this case. Our longtime legal director, Julie Jonas, also made really significant contributions before leaving for St. Thomas Law School, as did one of our former clinical students from the University of Minnesota Law School, Trish Palermo. I'm so happy that we got to play this role, and I'm very proud of the role our team played. But there have been so many people fighting for Marvin for a very, very long time. First and foremost, of course, is his family. Marvin's got 5 sisters, and they have been relentless in advocating for their brother over the past 2 decades. And if you've met any of these women in recent years, you know that they were not going to rest until their brother was free. And they deserve a lot of credit for making sure that the rest of us could not ignore this injustice. And there's so many other friends and community members, including people here today, who fought for Marvin every step of the way. So I want to thank you all for never giving up on Marvin. And I'm just so thrilled to say that as of today, Marvin Haynes is fully exonerated and a free man. So thank you.
First, I just want to thank Mary and her administration. Without them, I wouldn't be in this position. I want to thank the Innocent Project, Julie Jonas, Andrew, Anna, Sydney, Jazz, everybody from the community that supported me and recognized that I was innocent and came to my aid. It takes the community to recognize these things to change it. So I just appreciate everybody for their support and their love, and I'm exonerated now. I'm innocent.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marvina Haynes. I'm the sister of Marvin Haynes, who has spent 19 years of his life wrongfully incarcerated. When Minneapolis police took Marvin from my family, it really caused a lot of harm, as we heard Mary speak about that today. Today, we're here to rejoice Marvin's freedom and to make sure also we want to make sure that these type of injustices doesn't continue to happen. Our family had been trying to get Marvin's story out for 19 years. Why does it take so much time for an innocent man? I'm very excited today. I'm full of joy. My heart couldn't be more happier. After this, we're going to go and visit my mom. I know she's going to be very happy to see my brother. I want to thank all of the community members who supported my brother, my family along the way. I want to also thank Unicorn Riot, Star Tribune, Star Tribune, Fox 9, and everyone else who believed in Marvin's story and started to help me put together articles to be able to tell Marvin's story. For a long time, we tried to tell Marvin's story, but we didn't actually know I didn't actually know how to tell Marvin's story, or what did it mean that my brother was wrongfully incarcerated. When this stuff happened to Marvin, the incarceration rate went up by 600% in our community. So everybody that we knew was going to prison around that time. And so it took a lot of education. The higher power put strength in our body, and we're here today. And again, I just want to say thank you, guys. I'm just lost for words.
Questions?
Hey Marvin, Paul Bloom, Fox 9, quick question. I know it came up during your testimony, but I think maybe one of your sisters spoke about you hadn't seen them in umpteen years.
Yeah.
I think your mom is ill. I don't want to get too personal, but have you not seen her in a while? Can you just tell me about seeing your family today? Like what? Tell the world kind of what's
excited.
happening today in your world.
I'm so excited to see my family. It's been years since I've seen a lot of them. I haven't seen my mom like in 3 or 4 years since she had her stroke. So that's been difficult to deal with, to go through this, and not being able to see them, and just, it's been a struggle, but I'm just glad I'm here. After I leave here, that's the first place I'm going, to see my mother, and I'm just appreciative to be here and people to recognize my innocence. So I'm just grateful. I mean, it took 19 years, but I'm here, and all I want to do is move forward and just get my life back. That's it. That's it.
Can you describe that moment when you got the word from Judge Cook about that order?
Andrew can attest to this. I was extremely just excited. I shed tears. I haven't cried so much in 19 years in that moment. So it's just like, I was excited. I'm just like overwhelmed with emotion. I was excited just to get my life back, to know like these people has recognized my innocence, and just know the truth prevailed at this time, you know? So yeah.
Marvin, what do you have to say about what your sister did? What do you have to say about what your sister?
My if it wasn't for my sister and the Innocent Project, I wouldn't be here. Like, it took my sister. My sister lost so much trying to fight for me to get innocence. Like, she neglected herself in the process of me getting my life back. So I mean, words cannot describe what she means to me and my family. It's a lot of work went into this. A lot of work. Just grateful. Yeah. But if it wasn't for Mary as well, though, like, I wouldn't be here. So it was a collective. And the judge, oh my God, I want to thank the judge, because he recognized this stuff. Like, it was in plain sight. And it's just like, a lot of people neglected me when I was trying to tell my story and put it out there. People didn't want to listen to it. But I was relentless, and I'm glad that people recognize it now. And that's it. That's all that matters.
Marvin, what would you say to other inmates that are experiencing the same or similar situations?
It's multiple inmates that's experiencing this. I know firsthand. You know, I conversated with these people. I done 19 years with a lot of these individuals. And these people need their life back as well. So it's urgent that we move forward with them and try to help get their life back as well, because 19 years it took for me to get my life back. I went to jail at 16 years old. You know what I mean? Like, so it's time for all the innocent people to get their life back.
Marv, what do you think about the individuals? Are you planning on working with the Innocent Project as well?
Absolutely. Whatever they need from me, I'm there. Whatever they need.
Hey Marvin, I was going to ask you about your hopes and dreams for yourself. I mean, technology has changed so much. What do you see yourself doing, you know, in addition to seeing family? What are your
I mean, I'm very savvy. I'll catch on. I mean, you know, I'll catch on. But I just want to get a job and just get my life in order. Like, just anything. I was in prison working for 25 cents an hour. I mean, anything. As long as it's paid, I'm willing to do it.
What about restitution?
It's time to get all that back. It's all the time to get all that back. So I mean, thank you, Mary, for everything. I appreciate you guys, like, for real.
Marvin, what kept you going for all those years?
Knowing that I'm innocent, having that faith, I'm like, listen, somebody gonna see this stuff and see that I was really the wrong person. Like, it was procedures that was put in place to avoid these type of injustices from happening, and these guys ignored it and it happened. So it's just like, I'm just glad that people recognize it now and we can move forward. That's it.
I have a question for you. This is at least the third case under what is now Senator Klobuchar's reign as prosecutor. And so are you looking at other cases from when she was county prosecutor?
So this case came to us through the Great North Innocence Project efforts to seek justice for Marvin. We have a number of tools that have been given to us. One is prosecutor-initiated resentencing, and we are about to roll that out in a couple of weeks. We are also building a conviction integrity unit to take a look at cases where this might have happened in the past. So those are tools that we have. We don't yet have developed the conviction integrity unit, but certainly we will be looking at other cases in the future.
So Mary, what legally did you have to do to make this happen? You had to waive some certain procedural things. Can you explain that in layman's terms?
Yes. As Andrew said, there are rules that keep people out of court if they don't bring their case in a certain amount of time. That's very difficult because oftentimes new evidence comes up. And if it comes up after those timelines, they're not allowed to bring that evidence into court. And so what we did was to waive that. So we agreed that they could bring their post-conviction proceeding, even though it was after the timeline that the courts have set to bring motions like this.
What is the timeline for possible restitution? Everybody knows how hard it is to sue government and sue police. Is there a path for this man to get something back financially?
I can't really speak to timeline. So we do have a statutory regime in Minnesota for compensation for people who have been wrongfully convicted. We fully anticipate that Marvin will qualify for that, but we're taking one step at a time here. But that will be something we will be looking at for sure.
Where are the officers?
Yeah.
This on?
So there were two lead investigators on this case. One of them actually testified on behalf, and Andrew could talk more about that. Neither one of them is still with the Minneapolis Police Department. Maybe Andrew, if you want to talk about the police officer, the two. Okay. So one testified. One testified at the hearing, and he said that he didn't believe. Remember, I mentioned there was a lineup that was shown to the victim's sister. She identified a particular person with 75 to 80% certainty. That person was not Marvin Haynes. It was after that where the police and prosecution were trying to make a case against Marvin, where they were trying to show other lineups. And that particular investigator said he disagreed with that. I think he testified he thought it was a joke at the time.
Yeah.
But he was overruled by his supervisors and the prosecutor. And so they went ahead with these lineups that he didn't believe should have happened. So one of the investigators did testify and was very supportive of setting aside this conviction. The other investigator retired and could not be found.
Is there any crowdfunding or GoFundMe that we can donate to help Marvin get back on track in these days before the justice system does what they're going to do, that we can be a support to Marvin?
Yes, we are going to have a GoFundMe, and we will distribute that information when it's ready. So I'm sure Marvin will appreciate all the support he can get, getting back on his feet.
Sir, other than seeing your family, is there any one thing that you're looking forward to, or eating, or seeing, or doing?
Having kids.
No, I just want to see my mom go walking. I mean, just the simplest things. When you go through something like this, the most simplest things, that's all that matters, like literally. So just walking, seeing the trees, seeing the sun, seeing, like, really just experience life. So yeah, simple things.
Marvin, when did you find out? Was it this morning?
No, it was actually my birthday. I couldn't even believe it. That was the best birthday present I ever received.
So you found out days ago? What has it been like though, sitting there and waiting and hoping that it's gonna come?
I mean, I always knew this was gonna happen. I always knew I was gonna get justice. I wasn't gonna stop until somebody recognized what I went through and seen that I was innocent. Like, I was not gonna stop at all.
When those doors opened and you saw your sisters on the other side.
I was like just ecstatic to see my family, see my friends, like people that I ain't seen literally in 19 years. So, I mean, yeah.
I could just ask the county attorney to follow up on this gentleman's question, elaborate on reviewing past cases, and there have to be people in your office who were around back then. I mean, what is going to happen? Because what's being described is a real short circuit of a lot of things. And this is actually the second time I'm aware of this kind of thing has been brought up about this period of time.
It was also the same prosecutor who is no longer with the office.
Into Mayan Burrell?
Yes, yes, same prosecutor. So, you know, one of the things I want to say is I met Marvina in my campaign, I think, and Marvina, I followed me around, I think, and was trying to tell me about Marvin's case. And I remember saying very clearly, Marvina, I don't want to know the details of his case. I didn't know the details of Marvin's case. And the reason I told Marvina I didn't want to know about it, because there has to be a process. There has to be a process that has integrity to it. And so we are not at the moment going out there seeking cases where there might have been a wrongful conviction. What we are doing is setting up processes that have integrity so that we can take a look at cases. And that's, I talked about prosecutor-initiated resentencing, and I also talked about building out our conviction integrity review unit. In this particular case, it came to us through the request to have a post-conviction, this hearing. We agreed that they could have the hearing without that time bar. And it was really our team. There was a recommendation made to me. And it was only a couple of weeks ago that I actually read through every single police report in this case. I read through all of the reports. That was the very first time I had read through all of the reports. And so by the time a recommendation was made to me, I was very convinced after looking at everything that Marvin Haynes was innocent.
One more question.
Mayor, I just want to ask, are you guys planning on charging the officers or anyone who had anything to do with these tomfoolery accusations that had them locked up for 19 years?
No.
Do you have a position on the legislation that Andrew mentioned about eliminating the statute of limitations for bringing up new evidence?
Yeah, I support that legislation. For some of you, or for all of you, it may surprise you to know that our courts in general have said that even if somebody's innocent, if they haven't brought their petition forward in the amount of time allotted to them, they can still get the death penalty. This is in other states. So I think we have a real problem with courts using procedure, not, when I say procedure, I mean time, right? So if you don't submit your new evidence or your case within a certain period of time, the courts have said, too bad. You know, even if you are innocent, you can't submit it. And part of that has to do with finality of the process. But I think we have to obviously leave open the idea that there are going to be mistakes and wrongful convictions. And to the extent that we block people from having access to the courts to litigate that, I think we need to change that. And so we'll end it there. I know Marvin, if I were Marvin, I'd be wanting to get to see his mother and the rest of his family. And so thank you so much.